At the family photo shoot, my 5-year-old daughter Sophie sat in the front row, her little yellow dress catching the morning light. She was all giggles and curiosity, clutching a candy cane she wasn't supposed to have, smiling wider than anyone else there. It was one of those rare moments where everything looked picture perfect. Or so I thought. I'm Laura Mitchell, 35 years old, an elementary school art teacher in Savannah, Georgia. I've spent my whole life teaching kids to find beauty in mistakes, paint spills, crooked lines, the stuff adults usually overlook. But that day, standing in front of my family, I realized not every flaw gets forgiven. Before I tell you my complete story, subscribe and comment where you're watching from. I'd love to know how far the story travels. A few weeks later, the Christmas cards arrived. Glossy, expensive, the kind that looks like they were printed for a catalog family, not a real one. My mom called it her best holiday layout yet. She said she'd spend hours picking the right template, so everyone fits. When I picked one up, it smelled faintly of cinnamon and new ink. Sophie was beside me, bouncing on her toes, too excited to wait. "Mommy, can I see?" she asked, grabbing one from the stack before I could stop her. Her smile faltered almost instantly. She blinked once, twice, scanning the picture. "Mommy, where am I?" At first, I didn't understand. "What do you mean, sweetheart? You're right there in the front." My words froze halfway out. Sophie wasn't there. She had been sitting right in the center that day, front row, holding her cousin Ryan's hand. But now, it looked like she'd never existed. Her spot had been filled with digitally duplicated floorboards. Even Ryan's arm looked oddly cut, like someone had erased the person he'd been touching. For a split second, my brain tried to find logic. Maybe a mistake from the printer. Maybe an alternate shot. But then I looked closer. The shadows didn't match. The floor texture repeated like a bad copy-paste. This wasn't an accident. Someone had paid to have my 5-year-old photoshopped out. Sophie flipped through another card, then another, faster and faster, until they scattered across the table like glossy confetti. "I was there," she whispered, voice trembling. "I was sitting right there, Mommy. Why did they take me out?" I reached for her, my heart breaking in slow motion. "Hey, look at me," I said softly. "You didn't do anything wrong." Across the room, my mom was fixing decorations, humming carols, pretending not to hear. "Oh, those came out so beautiful this year," she said casually, adjusting a card on the mantel. "Much cleaner layout. We finally look uniform. Uniform. Like my daughter had been a stain." Sophie bit her lip. "Did I make the picture bad?" Her words cracked something in me I didn't know could break. "No, honey. You made it perfect." But she wasn't listening. She grabbed another card, searching for herself again, her small hands trembling harder each time. Maybe I was hiding. Maybe they couldn't see me. Her voice went smaller, uncertain. "Maybe I'm too little." Across the room, my dad muttered. It just looked crowded. We wanted the photo to feel balanced. I turned slowly toward him. "Balanced." He shifted in his chair. "Don't make a scene, Laura. Your sister and I agreed it was better this way." Sophie's dress didn't match the theme. You know how Becky likes things coordinated. Sophie's chin quivered, but Grandma said yellow was happy. And just like that, her smile vanished completely. She turned away from the table, eyes glistening, and whispered, "I'm sorry I ruined it." I wanted to scream, to tear every one of those fake perfect cards into 1,000 pieces. But instead, I stood there, silent, because I realized something. If I yelled, they'd just roll their eyes. There goes Laura again, dramatic as ever. No, this time, I wasn't going to give them noise. I was going to give them consequences. I picked Sophie up, kissed her forehead, and carried her to her room. "You didn't ruin anything," I whispered. "They did." She nodded, confused, tears soaking into my sweater. When she finally fell asleep, clutching her stuffed bunny, I went back downstairs. The cards were still spread across the table, each one a mirror of their cruelty. My mom was showing one off to my aunt over the phone, laughing. "Doesn't it look cleaner this year?" Cleaner. As if deleting my child was housekeeping. I gathered the cards, stacked them neatly, and stared at the photo one last time. Becky's family in their matching red sweaters, my parents perfectly posed behind them. Me, cropped at the edge, barely visible. No Sophie, not even a blur of yellow. That was the moment I stopped being the invisible daughter. Because they didn't just erase my little girl. They erased the last ounce of respect I had for them. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching the lights flicker across the neighborhood, thinking about every time I'd been told to stay quiet, to let things go, to not ruin the peace. Peace built on erasure isn't peace. It's submission. By morning, my plan was ready. The next day was Christmas Eve. Everyone would gather at my parents' house, same as always. Becky, her husband Jason, their kids, my parents, all of them smiling for another photo. And this year, I'd bring a gift they'd never forget. A gift that would make them see exactly what they'd done. The next morning, the air in Savannah carried that quiet, cold stillness only December brings. I woke up before dawn. Sophie was still asleep, her little hand wrapped around her stuffed bunny, her cheeks soft and peaceful, unaware of the storm I was about to walk her through. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee untouched, staring at the stack of cards. Each one was a lie printed in gloss. My family had looked straight at my daughter's smile and decided she didn't belong. That wasn't a mistake. That was intent. I'm not a woman who breaks things. I'm a teacher, an art lover, someone who believes in fixing what's broken. But there are some things you don't glue back together because they were never supposed to be whole in the first place. I picked up my phone and texted my mom. "We'll be there at noon." She replied instantly. "Perfect. We're something festive." Becky bought matching sweaters for everyone. I almost laughed. Matching sweaters. As if a color scheme could hide what they'd done. I didn't tell Sophie about the plan. She didn't need to see my anger, she just needed to see me stand for her. She thought we were going for lunch, same as every year. She even helped wrap the presents, humming off-key to Jingle Bells. When we pulled up to my parents' house, the driveway was full of cars. I could see the same red sweaters through the window, Becky's perfect little army. I parked, turned off the engine, and looked at Sophie. "You ready, sweetheart?" I asked. She nodded, smiling nervously. "Will Grandma like my dress this time?" Her voice cracked on this time, and I swear something inside me twisted. "She'll love it," I said softly, brushing a curl from her forehead. "Because you're beautiful." We stepped inside. The smell of cinnamon and ham hit me immediately. The house was warm, loud, full of fake laughter. My mom turned, her face lighting up like she'd just seen the Queen. "Oh, Laura, you made it," she sang, sweeping toward me. Then her eyes flicked to Sophie, her smile faltering. "Oh, you wore yellow again." "It's her favorite color," I said flatly. My sister Becky came over next, wine glass in hand, face painted in that fake sweet smile that had fooled strangers for years. "We missed you at last week's photo session," she said. I looked at her. "No, you didn't." She blinked, clearly not expecting me to skip the polite act. "Excuse me. You didn't miss us, Becky. You erased us. There's a difference." Her fake smile slipped. "It wasn't like that, Laura. You're being dramatic." I finished for her. "Yeah, I've heard that one before." The room went still. My mom gave a sharp little laugh, trying to smooth it over. "Let's not start, please. It's Christmas Eve." "Oh, don't worry," I said, smiling sweetly. "I brought gifts." That got everyone's attention. I handed Sophie a small bag and told her to give it to Grandma. My mom looked pleased, like she was back in control. "How sweet," she said, tearing at the ribbon. "You didn't have to." Then she froze. Her smile vanished. Her hands trembled slightly as she pulled out what was inside, a photo album. The same family photo from the Christmas cards printed on the cover. But inside, every page told a different story. The first page showed the official family photo, the one where Sophie was missing. But beside it, on the facing page, I'd printed the original unedited shot. The truth. Sophie sitting right there, smiling so brightly the sunlight hit her hair like gold. Underneath, in neat handwriting, I'd written, "Sometimes the parts you erase are the most beautiful." The next few pages were similar, unedited photos from that same day. Sophie laughing with her cousins, holding hands with Ryan, hugging Grandma. All real, all joyful, all deleted from the final version. My mom's face drained of color as she flipped the pages. "Where did you get these?" Becky snapped, her voice sharp now. "My phone," I said calmly. "I take my own pictures." Didn't think you'd mind, since you were so busy deleting her from yours. My dad leaned over, frowning. You didn't need to make a spectacle of this. Oh, I did, I said, keeping my voice steady. Because my daughter spent an entire night asking if she ruined the photo. If she was too small, too different, too unworthy. And none of you said a word to her. You let her believe that. Becky folded her arms. You're twisting this. It was just a photo layout issue. I took a deep breath, fighting the urge to laugh in her face. You paid someone to erase a 5-year-old, Becky. That's not a layout issue. That's a sickness. The room went silent again, that thick, suffocating kind of silence that comes right before a storm. My mom finally spoke, her voice cold and trembling. You had no right to humiliate us like this. No right, I said, meeting her eyes. You erased a child, my child, from every single memory you planned to send out to friends, neighbors, coworkers. And you want to talk about humiliation. Sophie tugged on my sleeve. Mommy, she whispered, can we go home? I looked down at her tear-streaked face, and that was my breaking point. We're leaving, I said. I turned toward the door, but before I stepped out, I paused and said quietly, you won't get another photo with us again. Ever. No one moved. No one spoke. They just watched as I walked out, my daughter's small hand clutching mine like it was the only truth she trusted. Outside, the sky was gray, heavy with clouds. Sophie pressed close to me. Are they mad? She asked. Yeah, I said softly. But that's okay. Sometimes the truth makes people angry before it sets them free. She looked up at me, eyes wide. Did I do something wrong? I knelt down, cupping her cheeks. No, baby. You just exist, and that's more than enough. That night, we went home and built our own tiny Christmas. No red sweaters, no staged photos, no forced smiles. Just lasagna, laughter, and a tree that leaned too far to the left but somehow felt perfect. And while Sophie slept, I sat at the table and began the second half of my plan, one that would make sure my family never forgot what they did to her. By morning, the storm had rolled in. A cold Georgia drizzle hit the windows, soft but steady. I sat at the kitchen counter, my coffee growing cold again, staring at the open laptop in front of me. On the screen were 3 tabs, all of them waiting for me to click send. It wasn't revenge out of anger. It was justice out of peace. I'd spent the night piecing it together, a quiet, careful act of truth-telling. My family had erased my 5-year-old daughter from every single photo like she was disposable. Fine. I would show the world what they'd erased. The first email was addressed to my mom's church group, the same one that loved her perfect family Christmas newsletters every year. Subject line, behind the perfect picture. Inside, I wrote only one paragraph. This year's Christmas cards were beautifully edited. I just thought you might like to see the original photo before my daughter was photoshopped out. Merry Christmas from the real Mitchell family. Attached were the 2 photos side by side, the glossy fake version, and the real one with Sophie's bright smile shining dead center. The second email went to Becky's in-laws. I didn't write a word. I just sent them the same photos and captioned it, a little editing mistake they forgot to mention. The third one was for my parents' neighborhood mailing list. Mom had bragged about being the creative director behind the family photos, so I figured the neighbors would appreciate seeing her art in its original form. By the time Sophie woke up and padded into the kitchen in her bunny pajamas, the first replies were already coming in. Is this a joke? Why would they do that to a child? This is cruel. Sophie yawned, rubbing her eyes. Are you okay, Mommy? I smiled softly, closing the laptop. Better than ever. She climbed onto my lap and whispered, Do we have to go there again? I shook my head. No, sweetheart. We don't go where people make us feel small. That day, we baked cookies together and watched old movies while my phone buzzed nonstop on the counter. I ignored it at first, but when I finally checked, there were nearly 30 missed calls, half from my mother, half from Becky. Then came the texts. From Mom, what have you done? From Becky, you've humiliated us. Jason's parents are furious. Fix this now. From Dad, people are talking. You've ruined our reputation. I stared at the screen, calm. I typed one reply, just one. I didn't ruin anything. You did when you erased her. I set the phone down and walked away. By evening, it got worse for them. Becky called again, and this time I picked up. Her voice came through the line sharp and panicked. Laura, do you have any idea what you've done? Jason's boss saw that email. His parents are mortified. Everyone thinks we're monsters. I kept my tone even. Maybe because you acted like one. You're unbelievable. It wasn't even my decision. Mom thought it looked better that way. I almost laughed. So it's Mom's fault now? That's funny. Yesterday, you were the one who said Sophie's dress didn't fit the theme. Becky went silent for a moment, then snapped. You're pathetic. Bitter and jealous. That's why you did this. Jealous of what? I asked. A family so empty it needs Photoshop to pretend it's happy. She didn't have a comeback for that. Just a shaky breath, and then the click of the call ending. It was quiet for a moment. Then the house phone rang. Mom. I considered ignoring it, but something inside me said pick up. Her voice was low, trembling, part fury, part fear. Laura, your grandmother called me this morning. That stopped me. Grandma and I had always been close. She lived just 15 minutes away and had seen right through my parents' favoritism for years. What did she say? I asked carefully. Mom's voice cracked. She saw the pictures, and she called her lawyer. I frowned. Why? Mom hesitated. She's changing her will. She said she's leaving the house to you and Sophie. I went quiet. She's out of her mind. Mom continued, her voice rising. Do you understand what that means? You're stealing our inheritance. You've turned her against her own family. I took a deep breath. No, Mom. You did that yourselves. She started to cry, the performative kind. After everything we've done for you. We gave you a home. I closed my eyes. You gave me an attic. There was silence on the other end. Heavy. Real. Then I said quietly, you erased my child, Mom. Grandma's just making sure you can't erase me too. I hung up before she could reply. The next morning, Grandma called me herself. Sweetheart, she said softly, I saw the cards. And I saw what you did. I'm proud of you. I almost cried. You're not mad. Mad. Laura, I spent 40 years watching your mother favor Becky like it was a religion. She's been erasing you since you were old enough to speak. But this time, she crossed the line. I called my lawyer. This house will be yours and Sophie's when I'm gone. No more attics. No more apologies. Grandma, she cut me off gently. Don't thank me. Just promise me one thing. What's that? Don't let them teach Sophie what silence looks like. I couldn't even speak. That night, I tucked Sophie into bed early. She was sleepy from all the cookies and hot chocolate, her bunny tucked under her arm. She looked up at me, eyes heavy. Mommy, do you think Grandma likes me? I brushed her hair back. She loves you more than anything, baby. Sophie smiled softly. Then maybe she'll draw me in her picture. That line nearly broke me. I kissed her forehead and whispered. She already did. The next morning, I heard tires screeching outside. My parents' car. I peered out the window. They were storming up Grandma's walkway, Mom clutching her purse like she was ready for war. I slipped on my coat, grabbed my keys, and drove straight over. When I arrived, Grandma was in the living room, calm as ever, sipping her tea while Mom and Dad stood frozen across from her, holding an envelope. What's going on? I asked. Grandma smiled faintly. Your mother's just reading her Christmas gift. I turned to Mom. What gift? She opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a copy of Grandma's new will. The house, the property they'd always called their future retirement place, was signed over to me and Sophie. Mom's voice cracked. You can't do this. I already did, Grandma said calmly. You tried to erase a child. Now you're the ones erased from my estate. And just like that, the woman who'd spent years cleaning up after them finally had the last word. Grandma's living room felt like the eye of a storm, quiet, but full of electricity. My parents stood there speechless, gripping the will as if holding it tighter would make it disappear. Grandma didn't even raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her calm was sharper than any scream. My dad was the first to speak. His voice cracked. This is ridiculous, Mom. You can't just give everything to her. Grandma set her teacup down gently. I can and I did. I've watched you all my life, Todd. You stood by while your wife bullied your own daughter. Now you're standing by while she hurts your granddaughter. You've both forgotten what family means. My mother's face turned crimson. She's manipulating you, she yelled, pointing at me. She's been twisting this entire thing to make us look like monsters. Grandma gave a cold, humorless laugh. You didn't need any help looking like monsters, Valerie. You photoshopped a 5-year-old out of your Christmas cards. The silence that followed was suffocating. My parents looked at me like I was the cause of everything wrong in their world. But I didn't flinch. This is wrong, Mom said, her voice shaking now. You're punishing us over a stupid photo. Grandma leaned back in her chair, her eyes sharp. No, I'm punishing you for a lifetime of cruelty. You erased your own granddaughter because her dress didn't fit your color scheme. Maybe losing your house will finally teach you what real shame feels like. My dad tried a softer tone. We can fix this. Please, Mom. Think about how it looks. People will talk. Grandma's smile was ice. They already are. My mom's lips trembled, but she didn't say another word. She dropped the will onto the table like it burned her, then stormed out. Dad followed, slamming the door behind them. Grandma looked over at me. They'll try something, she said quietly. People like them always do. She was right. 3 days later, the knock came. I was at home with Sophie when 2 police officers and a woman from Adult Protective Services showed up at the door. Ma'am, one officer said, we received a report of possible elder abuse at your mother's residence. We need to ask you a few questions. My stomach dropped. They weren't subtle. It was obvious who called them. I let them in, hands trembling slightly. Of course, I said, trying to keep my voice even. You're welcome to speak to her. She's fine. One officer nodded. We'll need to talk to her separately. Absolutely. They went next door, where Grandma lived. I waited on the porch with Sophie, who clung to my leg, whispering, Are we in trouble, Mommy? No, baby, I said softly. We're telling the truth. People who lie always end up caught. Minutes dragged into hours. I could see through Grandma's window as she spoke calmly to the officers, every gesture measured, every word clear. Finally, one of them nodded, then shook her hand. When they came back out, their expressions were different, more embarrassed than suspicious. Miss Mitchell, the officer said, we're sorry for the inconvenience. It seems there's been a misunderstanding. Not a misunderstanding, Grandma said from behind them, stepping out with her cane. A lie. The APS worker closed her clipboard. Everything appears in order. There's no sign of neglect or abuse. We'll note this as a false report. The officer nodded. You'll be notified if further contact is made. I thanked them, my heart pounding with relief. But Grandma wasn't done. She turned to the officers and said, One more thing. I'd like to file a counter-complaint for harassment and false reporting. The officer raised an eyebrow, then nodded. We can take that statement now. My mom and dad had tried to destroy me with lies, and Grandma had just flipped the script. That night, we sat by the fireplace, just the 3 of us, me, Sophie, and Grandma. The flames flickered, casting warm light on Grandma's calm face. Sophie leaned against her, coloring with her crayons. Did the police take the bad people away? She asked quietly. Grandma smiled softly. Not yet, sweetheart, but they know what's true now. That's what matters. Sophie went back to coloring. Can I draw all of us this time? Yes, Grandma said. All of us. I swallowed hard. You didn't have to do all this, I said. They'll hate you for it. She chuckled. I've lived 78 years, Laura. I can handle being hated by small people. I smiled through tears. You gave us everything. No, she said gently, looking at Sophie. She gave me everything. The moment they erased her, I saw you again, the little girl they used to silence. I couldn't let them do it twice. I couldn't speak. I just leaned forward and hugged her. A week later, the phone call started. Becky first. Do you have any idea what you've done? She hissed. Mom and Dad got fined. CPS is watching them. Everyone knows. I stayed quiet. You've humiliated this entire family, she snapped. I finally spoke, my voice calm. No, Becky. I told the truth. You just don't like how it looks when the filters come off. Click. She hung up. Then my mother called. She was sobbing, the angry kind. You've destroyed us, Laura. The neighbors think we're abusers. Dad lost his club membership. Becky's friends won't talk to her. Are you happy? I took a deep breath. I'm not happy, Mom. But I'm finally free. She let out a bitter laugh. You're going to regret this. No, I said. You're just starting to. And I hung up. 6 months passed. The gossip had spread through town like wildfire. My parents had to move into a small rental on the outskirts of Savannah. Becky's husband lost a business deal because of the family scandal. The same people who once admired them for their perfect Christmas cards now whispered behind their backs. As for me and Sophie, we were finally living downstairs with Grandma. Sophie had her own small room now, painted pale yellow, her favorite color. Every wall was covered in her drawings, bright suns, happy trees, smiling stick figures holding hands. Us. A real family. Every morning, she'd show Grandma a new picture before breakfast. Look, she'd say proudly, we're all here this time. And every morning, Grandma would kiss her forehead and whisper, that's how it should be. We weren't rich. We didn't have matching sweaters or glossy cards. But for the first time, I didn't need any of that. Because my daughter finally knew what it meant to belong. And my parents, they finally learned what it felt like to be erased. So what do you think? Did I go too far by exposing them, or was it the only way to make them see the truth? Would you have done the same? Tell me in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one.